And let's pause right now as the governor makes his way to the podium to hear what he has to say.
Mr. Watson, glad to be here. Let me just say that our day started with some good news where we had a ribbon cutting for Twin Creeks Technologies, which will employ more than 500 people in Senatobia, making solar panels. Very, very high-tech, advanced technology, international company, about $175 million investment. As I say, within 5 years, they'll have more than 500 jobs. Since then, we've been flying over the river, starting just below Memphis. And of course, there's a lot of reason to be concerned. We've flown the levee the whole way, and the big levee, the Mississippi River levee, as the Corps has assured us, seems to be very much intact. They've had some small areas where they've had sand boils in a couple of counties that they're dealing with. The biggest issue for most of the areas we saw is backwater flooding. Even in DeSoto County and in Quitman County, you see some backwater flooding in areas where the cold water and some other streams simply they don't have anywhere to go. People here don't have to have an explanation of what backwater flooding means because we have it in our part of the Delta. Of course, there are homes and structures of various types that are on the other side of the levee, between the levee and the river, particularly a lot of the casinos in Tunica County. A lot of those businesses have taken self-help, built their own structures around the temporary levees or berms around the facilities, and those look to be working pretty well. As you fly over, you see clearly depths of water on the outside of those temporary levees, and you can see grass and sidewalks and encouraging things on the other side. But it continues to be a tremendous amount of concern because the river's still high, and the river hasn't crested here or anywhere further south. Our biggest concern, candidly, is the backwater flooding in the South Delta. The fact that the backwater, the Yazoo backwater levee will be topped or is anticipated to be topped, that the water will be deeper and will go over the top of the levee. A lot of work has been done around the steel bio structure to reinforce that levee so that in the process of water going over the top of it, which it may do for several days, that the levee is not breached. There is an area of the South Delta that is not protected. It's an area that is east of the Will Whittington drainage channel to the Delta Hill line, to the bluffs. And that's quite a substantial piece of real estate, mostly in Yazoo and Humphreys counties, small part of Holmes County, and a small part of Issaquah and Warren. I don't think any of Sharkey County is in that area. However, as we look at what is anticipated by the Corps and the National Weather Service as to water elevations, water levels, if all the levees hold, we don't have any reason to think that they won't, but if all the levees hold, you're going to have one strip on the eastern side of the Will Whittington drainage channel where water is going to rise to elevation 107 feet above sea level. West of the Will Whittington, where all of the area is protected, this would include Rolling Fork, Anguilla, Hollandale. This would include Holly Bluff proper, but not all the land around Holly Bluff. It would include Valley Park and onward, but again, not all the land around them. It would include Satartia, which has its own levee protection. That land will have water in elevation of 95 feet. So 12 feet difference between the unprotected part and the part that is protected by the Yazoo Backwater Levee. If the Yazoo Backwater Levee were to fail, which we do not expect, but we cannot absolutely rule out, then water west of the Will Whittington would be subject to rising to as high as 107 feet. At such a level, Rolling Fork, Anguilla, Cary, Holly Bluff, and a number of other smaller communities would go underwater. I can't tell you here whether it'll be a foot or 3 feet or whatever, but there is a 12-foot difference between that which is protected by the backwater levee and that which is not protected. We've asked the Corps, and the Corps for the last several days has armored, reinforced the backwater levee to strengthen it because we know it is going to be topped, and to try to make sure that there's no failure there. Because there is a tiny chance, and it's better to be prepared than to expect to be lucky. We're going to deploy National Guard in this area that essentially is below Highway 12 that runs from Hollandale to Belzone, all the way down west of the Will Whittington, and then below that in the area in southern Sharkey County. The Department of Public Safety, the Highway Patrol, the Bureau of Investigation, the Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks Conservation Officers, MDOT and their law enforcement divisions, and the Mississippi National Guard have been working with FEMA and with MEMA, our own Mississippi Emergency Management, and with the local governments to try to be sure that we evacuate everybody who's at risk. And let me say, the biggest danger here for people is that they choose not to evacuate, assuming they're going to be fine. And then they wait so late that instead of evacuating, somebody has to rescue them. And somebody has to rescue them means that not only might the person who didn't evacuate drown, but the people who have to go in there to find them might drown. So we want to urge people, if in question, go on and evacuate. Get your property elevated, or if you live in an area where you're fairly certainly going to flood or have a reasonable chance of flood, get your furniture, get your belongings, get whatever you can get out and take it to higher ground. And but more than anything else, save your lives, and save the lives of, and don't put at risk the lives of people who might have to come in to try to save you. There's going to be a substantial agricultural loss involved here, though I'm pleased to say to the north, the crops look good, tractors in the field. We were dodging crop dusters and they were dodging us all the way down. And so that is encouraging. The real big area of risk is in the South Delta. And we're doing everything we can. I want to thank the local governments, the mayor's here and the supervisors are here. And that's not just true for here in Washington County, but all through these river counties and delta counties, we've had great cooperation from local authorities who are preparing. There have been some mandatory evacuations that have been undertaken, which was prudent, and we anticipate there will be some more. And I want to just thank the local officials for the job they've done. I also want to thank MEMA and the Guard and these others who pretty well now got everybody activated, and between the tornadoes in the eastern part of the state where the cleanup still continues, and we still have people who have to be over there for security or other reasons. The state's resources are pretty stretched, but they're not anywhere near breaking. I mean, the state's going to do its share, The federal government has been very cooperative. I want to thank the administration and FEMA, thank the Corps for the job they've done, the cooperation that we've had. The levee boards have been very good to work with, and what you're seeing right now is a team effort. The mayor made the point to me the other day on the telephone and reiterated today, everybody's working together and everybody's doing everything can be done. A lot of what we're going to end up doing, if people will be prudent and get out of harm's way, then most of what we're going to end up doing is cleaning up and rebuilding. And that's not going to be done overnight, but I want you to know that we expect the resources to be there, people to get help. And I appreciate the way the federal government has been very quick to recognize that this is going to be a major disaster in terms of economic loss. If people will be prudent, it won't be a major disaster in terms of loss of life, because there's no reason for anybody to lose their life in this. There's no reason for anybody to lose their life in this, because we've had days and days and days of warning, and the crest still isn't even here. So what we're planning for is a major economic loss that we will recover from, and we are working hard to make sure that doesn't become loss of life by urging people like you to tell your neighbors and your employers and employees, get out of harm's way, and then we'll go back in and fix it afterwards. With that, let me just stop and see if there are any questions, and see if, Mayor, if you'd like to say something.
Thank you, Governor. Just want to reiterate to everyone, to all of the officials that are here, we do understand that this is an emergency and everyone is very concerned. You should be assured that all of us are working together, and that's important. Our governor has been so gracious to come and visit us here in Greenville, Mississippi. We're working with him as local officials. Our county is here, levee board is here, the emergency management group is here, MEMA, FEMA, every agency is working together in an effort to make sure that we take care and protect the people of our community, and we appreciate you, Governor, for coming to Greenville.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Question? Mom? Depends on whether the levee breaks or not. If the levee does not break in this area, we're not talking about anything more than what's already happened with the evacuation of Lake Ferguson, some other low-lying areas. If you have the backwater levee breaks, it could come up as far as Hollandale. It shouldn't come this far, maybe some areas slightly north of Hollandale. The big evacuation currently is the evacuation between east of the Will Whittington and Yazoo Humphreys and those areas, where you're talking about thousands, not hundreds, of people all told. We've been urging them to evacuate for more than a week. As you will remember, press conference that I think you went to in Jackson more than a week ago, we started telling people to clean up, take everything they had, move it to higher ground, and leave. Some of those places are going to be 10, 15 feet underwater. That's correct. And we are urging people who are close to go ahead and evacuate. Don't wait till the levee breaks, because if the levee breaks, there are many places in Sharkey County where the warning, well, actually the time between the levee breaks and when the water gets there will be a handful of hours. So people need to go and get out. A number of people will need to evacuate because the roads that they would go over are already going to be underwater. Their homes may be fine, but the roads will be underwater. And then if you have some kind of disaster, very, very, very hard for them to get out. And we're urging those people to get out this weekend the crest is going to be next week, but there's going to be a lot of water this weekend. Certainly, this is going to be the last weekend people have to get their property out of the way. Sir? Well, no, it's not in effect yet. Right now we're working with local law enforcement, the highway patrol. We will call up, we will alert National Guard on Friday to be on duty in these areas, and most of this will be below Hollandale. I think we have a backup staging area at Hollandale. Not a primary staging area, but a backup staging area. We will have primary staging areas at Rolling Fork, at Holly Bluff, a little further south than Hollandale. But we'll have a backup area at Hollandale, and these National Guard will be in place Saturday evening or Sunday morning. I'm sorry, Molly. Well, the National Guard will have multiple missions. First of all, they have vehicles where if we have to go in and get people over roads that are underwater, that they have vehicles that can drive through water. And let me just say, nobody in this room that isn't in such a vehicle, I don't care how smart you are or how long you live there, ought to be driving on a highway that's underwater, because you can very easily run off of it and drown because you can't tell where the edges are. So MDOT is going to work with us on doing some delineation on major highways, but not for the average person to be driving, but for emergency responders to be driving. But search and rescue will be a mission that they will undertake along with boats from local sheriff's departments, boats from Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, boats from the Highway Patrol, and these vehicles from the National Guard. Security, control of ingress and egress to areas that are underwater that are affected. And then ultimately, we may be involved in feeding, water, ice. So the National Guard mission would span a large number of security, search, rescue, and taking care of people. Sir?
When you're talking about 107 feet and pressing this week, what's your thinking on how long you take to receive?
A long time. 2008, when we had a similar but considerably lesser flood, the backwater areas were underwater for 3 weeks or so, depending on how they were affected. Remember, the big backwater flooding is caused primarily because the Mississippi is so high that the Yazoo and the other tributaries cannot drain. When the Yazoo's at 99 feet on one side of the levee and the Big Sunflower's at 90 feet on the other side of the levee, the Big Sunflower can't get out until the Yazoo goes down to 90, and then you can open the floodgate. So for backwater, a lot of it may have to sit until the Mississippi has gone down by a very, very large amount because there are other obstacles for that water to get from Wolf Lake or Hollandale to Vicksburg, other than just the depth of the Mississippi River. So we think weeks, a month. Some of the levee board guys could maybe give you a more precise estimate, but I think anything less than 3 weeks or a month would be very optimistic in some places. Thank you. Ma'am?
Governor, how have you been working with other governors in regards to getting through this situation, especially with the declaration?
Well, first of all, we've been working a lot with other governors in several states about tornadoes and about tornado relief and coordination, and a lot of us got hit in the same 10-day period with a number of tornadoes. On this, we deal a lot more on the river flooding with the federal government. We have been in touch with Governor Jindal in Louisiana, but there's really not much that the states can do. Interestingly, the states that have been the most active with us are states that are a little further away that aren't affected. States like Texas, which have called to offer resources. Iowa, Governor Branstad called to offer resources. North Carolina, South Carolina. And the reason is they're not affected. So they've got resources where, Texas has got boats that run on, big airboats that don't draw any water, and they got no flooding. Iowa has to deal with river flooding a lot from the Missouri and the Mississippi, and they've offered us resources. Of course, our closest neighbors got the same problems we got. And I will say some of what has been done to help Louisiana gives us a little relief. When they open the Atchafalaya Basin to greater flow by the old river structure being open, and hopefully soon the Morganza structure being open, and then the Bonnie Carey being opened in Lake Pontchartrain, those are designed to help New Orleans, but they do give us a little relief, particularly below Natchez. So Natchez and Woodville and the southwest corner of the state gets a little relief there. But, that's not really a big deal for us. We're pretty well on our own right through here, and the Corps does a good job for us. God bless them. Miles, you want to ask something else? That's all right.
These people who are under the law, we talk a lot about them. Counties that have been declared emergency, declaration. How do they go about how much they can expect to see help with financial assistance?
Well, first of all, it takes some time, but you can register a claim with FEMA over the internet or on the telephone. And Mike Womack may have the telephone number, or somebody from FEMA is going to give you the telephone number for anybody who wants it. Maybe he's going to give it to me to give to you. As I said, we have great teamwork with FEMA. 1-800-621-3362. 1-800-621-3362. Any person who thinks they have a claim should call this number. If you're not sure, call. They can't help you if they don't know that you might have a problem. So please call that number. It's as simple as that. They'll put you through the process. Now, obviously, if the water is going to stay up for 3 or 4 weeks, the first thing you're going to need is shelter. And one of the things we've seen, not surprisingly, having been through some disasters in Mississippi, we've seen not very many people asking for shelter. They're going and staying with their family members, or people they go to church with, or people they work with, or people they go to school with. However, there are some people that need shelter. Please don't hesitate to call this number, because we have shelters available in the area where you won't have to go too far away. We know that when the water goes down, your houses, in some cases, are not going to be fit to live in. And we will work with you to provide you some sort of temporary housing, hopefully on the site where your home is, while your house is being rebuilt. You may be eligible for federal assistance to help pay the cost of rebuilding. Some of you will have flood insurance. Hopefully a lot of you will have flood insurance if you're in a flood area. But there are a variety of ways that we will help help with our federal partners, including feeding stations if we get to that. And I want to thank the Salvation Army and the Red Cross and others who are already operating such stations to the north, and that'll be here. But the best way to find out what you're eligible for and how to go about getting it is to please call 1-800-621-3362. Sir.
Last couple of briefing sessions they've had in southeast Arkansas, the Corps explained to local residents about the massive amount of wildlife that have had to flee. And I know over in Lake Village, around Lake Chico, there's a lot of deer moving, a lot of other wildlife, and they're already having some minor problems with them crossing the levee, and just explain to the citizens. So I guess my question is, did you happen to see a lot of wildlife as y'all were flying the levee today, moving, especially white-tailed deer?
We
y'all
didn't.
Saw any? We
did not. I'll tell you why I think. Most of what we flew over was cultivated land. And I'm sure if we had flown over areas that were dry and wooded in the regular season, so to speak, we would have, because that's clearly been the case in some other places. But today, and where I'm from in Yazoo City and up in Humphreys County, you get these large areas of cultivated land, and you don't see the deer herd because there's no place for them to live. You go 3 miles away, and you may see them, by the dozens. Thank y'all.